Done more work in those HVAC. Coats and glass, I have up in procedures. It was cold and I have seasons. I can let me that.
Good evening, everyone. Just a heads up that we are still waiting on a candidate who got stuck in traffic, as far as I understand. So hang tight, should be starting soon. Getting there. Waiting on a candidate who is running late, apparently. So.
Did you already say something you want me to?
I just did, yeah. Yep.
Anything else you need from me?
Don't think so.
Okay, I'll be down here.
All right.
There for you. Oh, look at it. That's your older sister.
Yes, I'm the middle child.
I am too.
We talked about that. Yes, we did. Yes. So there's 9 of us all together. Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Two. Yeah. You boys are very good.
Oh, thank you. Glad you're running into you. How you doing?
started my topic.
Exactly. There's a candidate who's running late, so yeah, give him a little more time.
Yeah, keep flying.
I was just about to answer my mask, like, welcome you. That's everything. I saw your email. I'm not going to respond.
You had it, I think it was topic.
Yeah, I saw that. I'll try to. Yeah, it doesn't feel like. I mean, I understand that they're saying, well, no, here's the process, but yeah, what we're doing is not for the
Man,
sorry.
this is right. These are your books, I can hold on to them.
Oh, actually, my book bag is right back here. Thank you so much. Big bag. Always love your bag. Ooh.
This is, I just pulled it out of that.
Yeah, sure. What? I haven't, but I have to read the question. You read it?
I actually have.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh,
this one I read, I've seen it, I've seen
interesting. No, I haven't. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, it's I'm never gonna say no to having books thrown at me. Yes. Oh, I do know how many years.
Do you want to like,
All the remakes. Yeah. Wordsworth has got the complete works, so I can tell you that one. But yeah, other than I don't have any. Yeah, I've read a thing or two that I like. So that's good.
there are so many people out there, it's pretty, you know, it's like this,
Yeah. Maybe I'm sure for it. And the episode goes sipping making, right? Yeah, I agree. But yeah, obviously he's on a senior student council. Super status and like showed up in like green suit. I was like, he's great. Now like talking over the candidates. We didn't give him any coaching at all. Just yeah, he knows how to do these kind of things. Yeah. Yeah, something like that. I mean, that would have been the case if we got started. I mean, it's good that people are still rolling in too.
It really was. I ran into a really heavy rain, accident, and then just kind of back.
That's what I was hearing, so it seems likely that we'll have more people rolling in. Yeah. Not bad. I don't know if you got programmed at all, but this Friday we have another event on the team for the Oh, I did. Well, there you go. Good timing. Yeah, I think Friday evening. It's a conversation about food insecurity. So very much related to this community. Privacy. Like an informal Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that
So she had a big data set about food insecurity.
Oh, awesome.
Particularly for older people that it's all about available or very food. So it's funny because
Yeah, well, and if you want to throw that away, yeah, appreciate it. It's really nice compared to last year. I mean, around the time that we were connected, those of us doing this work were still figuring out what we were doing. And this year being able to hit the ground running a lot more with this, it's pretty cool. Yeah, who knows where it's gonna go, but it's good started. Yeah, we have, this is actually, we've got the same about because
Did you hear about the food pantry that's facing eviction here? Medical found it. Yeah, basically we have the director, fantastic. We wanted to be in the place with all of them. Yeah, we're gonna have to panel with him.
Good evening. My name is Jason Johnson, and I have the honor and privilege of serving as the principal here at Northland High School in my 11th year. And I have the easiest job tonight, and that is simply to welcome you into this beautiful space. So on behalf of our superintendent, Dr. Angela Chapman, my area superintendent for Region 5, Diane Agnes, who is in the room, thank you for being here. Our students and staff members, it is such an honor for me to welcome you to this gathering tonight, especially in this space that was renovated over the summer. And it is a wonderful space, and I'm really excited about how we're going to use this space and all of our spaces to continue to welcome our community into these spaces, because without them, we cannot do what we need to do in order to serve students. It is an important part of my leadership and our belief system here at Northland High School that community partnership is a cornerstone of our work. And so one of the things I was sharing with the team that some of them didn't know as we were planning this is that any community organization can have access to our schools. And if you go to the district's website and you look up building use, you'll see the application there for you to rent space in our public schools here in Columbus City Schools. And so take advantage of that. It's a great way for community organizations to see firsthand the way that their tax dollars are being utilized. And so I welcome you into this space. Although it's raining, I want you to know that the stadium was also redone this summer, in addition to the auditorium, as well as the gym and all of the offices and spaces behind the gym, a new wrestling room, as well as, not this summer, but over last summer, we got new furniture in the cafeteria and some upgrades there. So again, thank you for being here this evening and welcome to this forum. And I'm going to turn it over to Muriel.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Marielle Pinot. I'm a parent of 3 awesome CCS students. I'm also on the board of Pint Size Protesters, who is co-hosting this event along with the Columbus Education Justice Coalition and the League of Women Voters. I'm also a neighbor to the high school. I live right next door, so I'm super excited to be here. And I want to thank Northland High for hosting this event. I'm going to read the rest of this because some of it's a little technical and I don't want to miss anything. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to this Meet the Candidates Forum for the Columbus City School Board race. We hope that tonight's discussion will inform our district students, teachers, and voters about the candidates seeking the 3 open seats on the board in this November's general election. Please make sure that you have a voting plan for the November 4th election. Early in-person voting starts October 7th at the Franklin County Board of Elections, which is just down the street here on Morse Road, super close. If you want to vote by mail, you must submit a written absentee ballot request form to the Board of Elections. Election day is Tuesday, November 4th. You can verify your election day polling place by contacting the Franklin County Board of Elections office. Okay, that's the technical stuff. So now I'd like to introduce our co-moderators for tonight. We have Dr. Sidney Jones. He is, as he just told me, 2 years more than on his latest bio, a 28-year CCS educator, a former English teacher, and currently a literary specialist with CCS. And Amir Abdi, who's a 12th grade student athlete here at Northland, also a student council member and an aspiring accountant. Thank you so much to both of you for being here tonight.
Hello guys, my name is Amir Abdi. I'm a senior at Northland High School. On behalf of the Northland student body, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this forum. Tonight we'll hear from 6 well-deserving candidates running for 3 open seats on the Columbus City School Board. Well, tonight we'll begin tonight by explaining our procedures, which agreed to by all participants in advance.
Tonight, each candidate will give a 1-minute introductory speech or statement. Amir and I will then ask questions, and all candidates will be permitted no more than 90 seconds to answer each question. We will change the order in which candidates are asked the question for each subsequent question. At the end of tonight's forum, candidates will have 1 minute to give a closing statement. Some of the questions have been pre-written, some were submitted online in advance, and the remainder will be solicited from the audience. Audience members who wish to ask a question must submit the question in writing. Volunteers will review the question before handing it to the moderator. The forum organizers reserve the right to reject audience questions if they are inappropriate or duplicative. It is unlikely we will have time to ask all submitted questions. The candidates can see our timekeeper, who will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds remaining and when their time has expired. If a candidate continues speaking, we will politely say thank you and move on.
We will now hear from our candidates running for Columbus City School Board. Candidates will begin with a 1-minute introduction and will continue down the table in alphabetical order. Jermaine Kennedy, I'm sorry about that. Jermaine Kennedy is not able to be here tonight due to previous scheduled work travel. So I'm happy to introduce Patrick Katzenmeyer. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Patrick Katzenmeyer. I'm so sorry for being late. My daughter had and to the candidates too, I apologize. My daughter had an open house tonight, and she had this little presentation that she was really nervous about, and I really wanted to be there for her. So apologies there, but I am here because I'm running because I believe in public schools, and I have 3 kids in the district, pre-K, 2nd grade, and 4th grade. I got in the race because our school was on the closure list last year, and it created a huge disruption in our community, in the school. Our principal left, our secretary left, and created a lot of problems. I think we can do a lot better. I am running out of time for my introduction, but I just want to bring a progressive, pragmatic stability to the board, and that's all. Thank you.
Next candidate, Janice Keys.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Janice Keys, and I am running for Columbus City School Board because I believe in the power of education. I'm the mother of 4 children who graduated from Columbus City Schools. One was valedictorian, the other 3 were able to come through successfully. And I understand full well as a parent what's necessary for our children to be successful. I am also in the industry of making sure individuals are trained appropriately. I'm a director of provider experience. And I'm also an individual that's just passionate about making sure our students receive the success that they deserve, making sure that they have opportunities. And so I'm all about career tech education and social work. And so I am here today to share with you, thank you.
Next candidate, Munir Lynch.
Good evening. My name is Munir Lynch. My pronouns are he and him. I'm a health educator, I'm an organizer, and I'm a proud product of Columbus City Schools, having graduated from Columbus Alternative High School. And I'm your next board member this year in 2025. Right now, our district is in relative crisis. We're facing tens of millions of dollars of budget cuts. We're facing a transportation crisis. And we have a lack of engagement with our community and a lack of trust from our community. I'm here to challenge every system that has let our kids down from the ground up right now, because this is an emergency on our hands. And we can involve all of us together as a community to make Columbus City Schools the best place to work and learn, and I'm excited for our conversation today. Thank you to Northland and all the sponsoring organizations for having us. Thank you all.
Next candidate, Kimberly Mason.
Good evening, everyone. I want to say thank you for being here and making space. It's a critical time this year with everything that's ahead of us. We have to make sure as a community that we are wrapping around and working together. My name is Kimberly Mason, and I have a public administration degree from DC in organizational management. In short, I like to say I'm the cleanup lady. Every role that I've been in has been in a social service space because I've had the opportunity to work in mental health, higher education, and financial services. I'm excited to run for Columbus City School Board of Education again because back in 2019, you called for strong leadership that made sure that they were going to be accountable, work with the community, and have more of a community-first perspective. That being said, my background allows me to bring workforce development, leadership, and community engagement at the forefront. And that is what's needed to continue these conversations for CCS. I'm excited for what the future will look like, and I hope that after today's conversation, you will find what a leader looks like in me. Thank you.
And for our last candidate, Antoinette Miranda.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Antoinette Miranda. I am a recently retired Ohio State University professor of school psychology and recent chair of the Department of Teaching and Learning. I also spent 8 years on the State Board of Education, recently finishing my term this past December. I am married to my husband who spent 35 years in Columbus City Schools, recently retired, and I have 2 children that went to Columbus City Schools, including one that went through the special ed program as he's spastic quad cerebral palsy. I spent my time at Ohio State working in Columbus City Schools, studying urban education, as well as working personally in Columbus City Schools. I was PTA president, PTO secretary, and worked many concession stands. I think I bring expertise in urban education, the experience that I spent in the schools professionally as well as personally, as well as my experience in the State Board of Education, understanding policy and legislation. Thank you.
Okay. We will start our first question this evening with Ms. Keys. First question. The district has received a 2-star rating on the state report card released last week. This comes at the same time the district is facing a $50 million budget shortfall. What is the single most effective policy change you would advocate for on a school board to address student outcomes given these financial constraints?
So I'm not sure about making it a policy change without knowing the data. I'm a data-driven professional, and so I would want to see what all we are lacking in order to make a decision, a good decision on if a policy is necessary, or if we need to make some changes in regards to the development of our teachers, or if we need to ensure that a policy is necessary. So I would need to definitely look at the data to give me the knowledge of what to do next. When we're talking about our $50 million deficit, we need to ensure that we are spending our dollars appropriately. We need to ensure that we're not leaving people in a space where they're not successful, not people, our children, because they deserve our public dollars. And so when we think about tax abatements that developers are not giving us. We need to make sure that we are reaching out to city council to make sure that those dollars do come to us so that we can fund the education of our youth. Thank you so much.
Is it going this way?
Yes.
Thank you. This is a very important question. So yeah, we did recently learn about the 2-star rating of the Columbus City School District, and the most effective policy change that we can implement right away is just asking for more from our city government. Ms. Keys just mentioned the fact that we give out a lot of money to luxury real estate developers and corporations. We lose $50 million a year to these projects that are making Columbus more unaffordable and are ripping off our Columbus City School District. So asking for more from the city, whether it's line items in the budget or community partnerships, or enhancing the potential of our community schools is something that we can start with getting done day one. I don't believe we've had people that have had the guts to stand up to the local political machine, and I am someone who is willing to do so because I view this as an emergency. I believe in the kids that I taught and that I learned with, and I know that we can do so much better when we ask for more and we get more. So if we improve our living conditions for people in Columbus, that trickles down to our performance in school, our comfort in school, and the rest moves forward. So we just got to take care of our people and ask for more from the city immediately. Thank you.
I agree with my colleagues, and something that I've been working on is more of a community first policy, which has more of a shared resources when we look at workforce development. Columbus is one of the top 5 rising cities, and so to make sure that we maintain that stability over the next 10 to 15 years, we have to have a stronger workforce, whether students want to go to college or if they want to enter a trade or certification, which means working more strategically with our unions, with our businesses, and making sure that those career pathways are more at front for our students before they actually leave the classroom. I say all that to say that we also have to look at the quality of education. While the state did give us a 2, at the end of the day, when we look at schools like Trevitt Elementary, who might be considered in an impoverished or low social economic area, they receive 3 and 4s on their report card as well too. So that means that there's success going on. So we have to target those resources and make sure that we're dispersing that so that the opportunities that's available are not just on one side of town, but for every side of town in which our students that we serve and we represent as well too. Thank you.
It's a great question. I don't know if there's one single effective policy change, but I think when you're looking at the 2, you have to look deeper. One of the things we know is that our elementary schools, about 40% got 3 or above. Middle school, 50% got 3 or above. And our high schools, only 25% got 3 or above. So when you have to look at the data, we want to look at, she's absolutely right about Trevitt. The principal is amazing. And so it also says that leadership makes a difference. So when we're thinking about how do we go from a 2 to a 3, we need to look at those schools that were successful, look at what they were doing, and make decisions that are driven by data in terms of how we begin to move the other schools forward. I believe we can do it, and as Ms. Mason said, Trevitt is not seen as a school in one of the most desired areas, but they were very successful. So it tells us that we can do it with low socioeconomic kids. You have the teacher, you have the principal, you can make it happen. So we need to look at what are the things that we are doing that have made it possible for schools to be successful. We need to look at leadership in schools to see how are they supporting what's happening in the schools. And we need to be make our decisions based on data. Money's great. I'm not going to deny that, but we really have to look at what's happening in the school and the classroom as well.
Yeah, when you look at those numbers, it does feel like it's a tale of 2 districts almost. There's 18,000 kids who go to a school with 3 stars or above, which means there's 28,000 kids who are at schools below that. So looking at those schools and that are doing well and figuring out why, you look at Northland, which got a 2, but Northland got a 4 in readiness, college and professional readiness. So, Northland's doing something right, and we need to look at their programs and replicate that across our other high schools. I also think we hear from, I think all of us hear this from teachers that we talk to, that the kids coming into school on the early side are just not ready. So we need to push for universal pre-K. We have the infrastructure there. We have pre-K in 65 schools, but these classrooms aren't full. We need to bus our pre-K kids to school. We need to market it better, and we need to really push back against the charter schools that are, effectively trying to steal the kids that are destined for CCS by marketing to them with glossy brochures and getting them to their school. So yes, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, so with that question being done, we'll start with Mr. Lynch for the second question. And the second question reads, the Columbus City School Board recently announced that they are considering cutting busing for high school students in wake of a significant transportation deficit. What is your plan to address the transportation deficit, and how will you ensure all students, regardless of what school they attend, have safe and reliable way to get to class?
Thank you. The last part of that question is the most important part, which is that we need to make sure that every kid has a safe and reliable way to get to school, which they do not currently. I'm very concerned at the proposition that we believe that every high school student in Columbus somehow can transport themselves, and that the solution is public transportation that, if you live in Columbus, is slow and inefficient, and we are working on that, but that is not the solution right now. There are different things that we can do. First of all, we can negotiate with charter schools that we're now legally required to transport. We saw the United Schools Network using their own money to facilitate their own transportation. We can ask of that from other schools, because at the end of the day, we all have the collective goal of providing an education and a safe place for a student, and we can all agree on that. Now, the logistics of that is something that, if we elect the right people, can negotiate properly. Something we've also been looking at is mileage reimbursements for parents who help carpool their kids and share neighborhoods, as a way of building community, as a form of mutual aid, and a way of cutting costs and efficiency for the district as well. So we are continuing to discuss this, but I'm concerned about the potential policy that might be coming. So thank you.
Great question. Transportation is the second largest expense for Columbus City Schools, roughly about $70 million, and I think the school board said about $5 million, in particular for high school, of that being cut. And when we look at just the history of CCS and the lack of reliable transportation, we've already seen a deficit coming from 21-22, where 65% of the students had chronic absenteeism, to a rise of that being 80% between the year 23 and 24. I say all that to say that transportation is not a negotiation. We need safe and reliable options for students. Now, does that mean that we need to make sure that all of our neighborhood schools, the feeder pathways, and all of the academic resources that we see may be piloted across the district are available in the backyard? I am a firm believer that when you have solutions in your backyard, whether that's just the sidewalks to walk to school and making sure that you can access the school that's in your backyard that has the pathways for career, technical school, sorry guys, I'm fighting a code, I'm holding on for my life, but I say all that to say, when we look at how we're going to frame what access education looks like, and it's available in the backyard, That itself will also help with that transportation because we're not transporting kids that the only option you have is going from the south side to the north side to get a quality education. It should be available in your backyard.
So this is a complex issue. $100 million is transportation. $70 million is what they're paying. We're paying $20 million to vendors because the real issue is we don't have enough bus drivers. And so if we don't have enough bus drivers, we're giving vendors $20 million to transport our kids. In addition, we are getting penalized. A couple years ago, the penalty was $25 million. We're looking at $10 million penalty with the possibility of a $15 million penalty. What we know is that state law says that if you are transporting any of your kids, you have to transport those same kids in charter and private schools. What happened is when they passed the rule about 15 years ago, there weren't as many charter schools, there weren't as many private schools. In addition, we maybe did not have as much enrollment, open enrollment, where we're transporting kids across. As well as the other issue is we have plenty of bus drivers. So now we're in 2025 where the landscape has changed. And so I think there are things we can do in the beginning, but one of the things that Dr. Angela Chapman says, are we in the business of transportation or are we in the business of education? And so when we're looking at a report card that has 2 and you're trying to figure out where can we put our resources to get to a 2.5 or 3, we will have to figure out how we're going to tackle this transportation. I believe the board is looking at different issues. One is getting more drivers, but the other thing is beginning to figure out how do we, if we don't transport 9 to 12, how do we find a safe way to get them to school?
We transport, my understanding is we transport 27,000 CCS kids every day and 8,000 additional charter and private school kids every day. And to Dr. Miranda's point, those rules were made when times were different 15 years ago, and now it's becoming unsustainable. I think we need to push back at this at the state level. I think I'd love to see us find a way to work with partnering law firms to actually kind of fight this in the courts. I think it's totally unfair to have an unfunded mandate. If your kid's going to a charter school, that means the money's flowing to the charter school, and to force the Columbus City schools to pay for those bus routes is just not fair. We don't have enough bus drivers as well. We're about 40 bus drivers short currently. So we need to figure out a way to attract more bus drivers too. And I'll say in the last advisory meeting there was kind of a unanimous passing of this movement to stop transportation for high schools. That makes me really nervous with our absenteeism rates. So I still need to do research to think about that, but I don't know if that's something I would support personally.
So we are unfortunately at an unfair situation. There's been recommendations to change times the bells ring for elementary school students as well as high school students, bringing the elementary school students in first and then busing, and that should decrease some of our overhead in regards to transportation. But again, I agree with Patrick in regards to fighting this responsibility of transporting charter school students. I feel it is unfair and it leaves our students in a dire situation. I've also been fortunate enough to do a couple clap-ins at the beginning of the school year and see children, 2 or 3 children getting off of a large yellow bus, and that is unacceptable as well. But I was very pleased to see the smaller vehicles, because the smaller vehicles perhaps may not require as many certifications for our individuals who want these jobs, and getting them to be trained so that they are able to transport our students could be another option. But again, bringing our parents to the table is important, because the decision it could be made from the board. But until we actually talk to our parents in our district and get their thought process on how we should make changes, we are doing a disservice to our community. And so I feel like engaging with, thank you so much.
Okay, question 3, we'll take an audience question. This comes from CCS family member. The organization Brown's Promise shared research that it's not so much students' background as the level of concentration of poverty and vulnerability that determines student outcomes. So the question for you all, what policies, programs, or changes would you support to break up concentration of vulnerability in CCS? And we'll start with Ms. Mason.
Can you read, we couldn't hear this down here. Thank you.
What, the whole thing?
Yeah.
I got you. All right, so they cited the organization Brown's Promise that shared research that it's not so much students' background as the level of concentration of poverty and vulnerability that determines student outcomes. What policies, programs, or changes would you support to break up concentrations of vulnerability in CCS?
I mean, so vulnerability is part of being human. And so we all come from different avenues, perspectives, and backgrounds. I say all that to say that providing solutions and opportunities for people to have advancements, it's not about just our future leaders that are currently hungry and ready to take on more, right? But we're looking from a generational perspective of how do we make sure that we have things in place. There are students who don't want to go to college. And at the end of the day, bring in opportunities such as IT, coding, HVAC, all of those opportunities closer to them, introducing them, especially at the elementary level. I mean, then by middle school, you can really cultivate that interest. By high school, they're invested into that process. That itself will help combat the vulnerabilities, because at the end of the day, it will also change their social economic status. It will also change the opportunities that they can also expose and be part of. And more importantly, it allows them to see in a different investment within themselves. I think at the end of the day, what we have to start looking at from board level perspective is what does our community need to be self-sufficient? How do we want to make sure that when people come to Columbus, Ohio, they're coming to Columbus City Schools as the initial investment and wrapping everything around there so that when we look at outside situations such as whether if it's training and development, whether if it is, well, thank you.
So we've known, you talk about this research, but this research has been around for a very long time, that schools that have high concentrations of poverty are more likely to have lower scores. In fact, the report card is the best indicator of wealthy schools and lower income schools. It's a correlation that comes out, and the Dispatch always writes about it and is shocked that Bexley is at the highest. There should be no shock. So what I say is that it's about leadership, it's about culture and climate of the school, and it's understanding your population. I worked in a school, Ohio Avenue, with a phenomenal principal who turned the school around in 5 years from a F to a C. We see it with Trevitt, high poverty school. So it is about the leadership, it is about the teachers who are committed, that understands the population that they're working with, and it happens in the school. So when I think about, when we're talking about resources, we should be looking at resources that are making sure those schools have what they need to move students. But most importantly, I've seen it over and over again, it is about leadership. Strong principal, strong teachers that are doing what they need, as well as related service personnel that make sure social emotional learning is taken care of. That's the vulnerability, that we're recognizing those kids and that we're giving them the supports they need. So it's about us in the district getting the right people to do the right thing in all of our schools.
Yeah, I probably couldn't say better than that, but that sounds right. I think the Brown, I think that's referred to the Brown versus Board of Education, saying that our school funding system is unconstitutional, which they declared over and over again, but as a state, we haven't changed that. I think part of this is a need to focus also more on our on our community schools. I really like the Columbus Education Justice Coalition's community schools model. I love what they're doing at Northland. I think we also need a 15-year master facilities plan that is going to give parents and families the confidence to send their kids to schools in the district that they know will not maybe be on a closure list next year, and participate in those schools and be a part of it, and it's getting parents involved in their schools, and just at my kid's school, we've seen the PTO grow from 1 member to 10 members, which isn't huge, but still been an incredible improvement over the last 5 years at our school. Just seeing how much more people are getting involved. You see more people coming to events. You see more people just being present. So I think it's a lot with the families too.
So I believe that vulnerability is caused by barriers, and we need leadership that is willing to look at those barriers and make decisions based on what's best for our students. So we need really dedicated leaders who are willing to say, we have a situation in this building, but it's different from the next. And even though those differences are there, creating something that will be good for everyone. And so, as I spoke earlier, ensuring that we gather our parents together, and that might be a little difficult, but ensuring that we bring our parents together to the table, our communities together to the table to tackle these barriers that our students are experiencing. When we talk about cuts, we want to make sure we're not cutting our special needs programs, because those students need those resources in order to be successful. So again, we have to make sure that the responsibility is to learn about the barriers that our students are dealing with, their parents are dealing with, because as much as you want to fix the issue that the child is bringing into the school, there are also barriers that are in the household. So looking at those, I love the Northland program, and we need more of that. We need to dig a little bit deeper into how to make these barriers subside.
Thank you for this question. First and foremost, it absolutely does, I agree with Ms. Keys, involve enhancing and investing in the community schools model. We have an obligation to expand this model to 3 more schools by the year 2028. And I frankly, as a voter and an advocate for education, I'm concerned that we might not fulfill that promise. We have told the CEA that they're responsible for hiring and finding somebody to implement the plan with their own money, and it seems like we're already slipping away from the concept of the community schools model. As a public health professional, I understand with the models that we use to improve population health, that when kids have access to the services that they need in their neighborhood, in their school, that it spreads all across every outcome of their lives. And it also means declaring a state of emergency on literacy. Early literacy is one of the foundational elements of how someone is going to live the rest of their lives. And so we can have a huge community effort using a small amount of the funds that our developers, maybe 25%. If we use that 25%, we could fund an $18 million program a year to push literacy in every corner of the city with a strong base of folks. I'm excited to talk about that some more, but that's another way that we can ask for more from people that have been ripping us off to improve literacy, and that literacy effect will trickle down to the entirety of the district and the city. Thank you.
So for the next question, we'll start with Dr. Miranda. And the next question reads, the district has considered closing and realigning schools in the past to address declining enrollment and budget challenges. How will you approach those decisions in a way that minimizes disruption and maintains community trust?
I think the first thing is that we have to involve the community from the beginning. The second thing is if we're going to hire a consultant, hire consultants from Columbus, Ohio. and therefore they understand, they know the district. But we have to get the stakeholders, the constituents, to be a part of the discussion. And the reality is, one of the things, Atlanta Public Schools has the same number of students, but 30 fewer buildings. The number one thing, we spend more on operations than any school district in Ohio. And that is because we have old buildings, everything has gone up, and they're difficult to maintain. So the reality is, we are going to have to close some buildings, but it should be very thoughtful. It should be driven by data. It also should be looking at community. North, south, east, and west is very different in Columbus. And so we should look at each of those communities to see what the differences are and what's important in those communities to build. If we're going to close a school, we need to figure out how do we repurpose that school, not as a charter school, but maybe in terms of housing, maybe in terms of medical facilities. We need to be thoughtful. So it's not about just closing the schools. We have to have a comprehensive plan that looks at what do you do when the schools are closed, how do you repurpose them for Columbus City schools? But most importantly, the community has to be involved in the discussion.
Yeah, just to pick up on that. So I'm, like I mentioned up here, because our school was on that closure list, and that didn't seem to be necessarily based in a lot of data. So we need to do a lot better at that. The deck is completely stacked against us. If you close a school, you must first offer to sell it to a charter school. And then if a charter school takes over that school, they're pulling more kids out of Columbus City schools. It's an evil plan that was put together by decades of Republican leadership in our state. So first of all, we need to find a way around that. We need to, if we are closing schools, we must recognize the hole that it creates in the community, and really, do everything in our power not to do that, and then do everything in our power to make sure it doesn't go to a charter school. So I think the key to that is a long-term plan that we actually abide by, put together by smart people who are studying district demographics and the direction we're going, and to acknowledge that every school we close will remove more kids from the district. So it's kind of the self-fulfilling prophecy. So, generally opposed to closing schools, but also we have to do it in a fair way.
So minimizing the destruction and the sense of disloyalty requires a transparent board. It requires us to make sure that whatever decisions that we are making, that we are involving the community, which requires us to be out in the community. When you look at the Zone In project, they did such a good job in ensuring that individuals across the city knew about the Zone In project. That's the type of reaching out, the type of advocacy that our Columbus City School parents deserve. They also deserve to be a part of the solution. Again, they deserve to have their voices heard. Again, the feeder schools that parents have children in, they deserve to be a part of the communication as well, because that child would have went to this school and that's no longer in effect if the high school is closed. So ensuring that we are being very clear with what we're working with, as well as the data, and then giving individuals the opportunity to sit at the table and make decisions is vital to our community as well as vital to our students. Thank you.
Thank you for this question. Something that sets me apart as a candidate for the Columbus City School Board is that I operate from a mindset of growth, expansion, and hope for this district rather than controlled consolidation. But I do acknowledge the reality that there are cuts that we're going to have to make, and there are closures that we're going to have to make. We need to have a board policy, school closure policy that sets clear-cut, distinct lines for this process, Not only is it a community engaged process, but I propose that it's a community led process where we have groups of parents, teachers, staff members, and students that meet independently to inform the district about the decisions that we make that affect their communities. And so we need community-led groups similar to what we have with neighborhood commissions in the city of Columbus that can help inform the decisions that we make as a board with the future school closure and consolidation policy that our new board will hopefully draft. We also, I agree, do need the facility master's plan, and we need to make sure that we are communicating effectively with people that are affected by any decision that we make. Teachers that don't think that they might have a school in the next year or two are going to leave. And so we need a plan for those people to know that they still have a home here and they have a future here regardless of the outcome of what happens to their building. They deserve that. Thank you.
You know, there's a couple things that come to mind. First and foremost, I live on the south side of town. And if you've been around Columbus long enough, you knew there was a middle school called Berry Middle. And that was named after the first African-American who became a nurse here in Columbus, Ohio. I say that to say closing buildings, right, takes away the legacy that goes into that neighborhood. What they're also planning, as far as developers, is to also put up a 300 unit that's over in the same area as well too once they demolish Berry Middle School. So I say that to say, while closing schools is not ideal, right? We also have to look at this balance of what do we currently have now from a population and what are we also to expect moving forward? Because if you have a 300 unit that comes, that means 150 other different students can be coming and they don't have a neighborhood school to attend at the end of the day. So we need to look at this for more, how do we tackle this deficit? How do we make sure that we have the proper anticipation of a school building that can house our current population and also support what will be moving forward into our district as well too. And last but not least, look, the trust has already been disconnected between the community. You don't trust what you don't respect, and you can't respect what you don't trust. So at the end of the day, we need a board. We need 7 individuals who are like-minded, but are going to be action-oriented. The days of having conversation of if, then, when, or where are done, and we need to make sure that we are strategic and we move forward. Thank you.
Okay, our next question comes from a CCS staff member. If elected, you will be part of the bargaining this spring around CCS teacher pay. What are CCS teachers worth to you in a percentage raise amount? And we'll start with Mr. Katzenmeyer. Yes. They asked, what are CCS teachers worth to you in a percentage raise amount? And I promise you I did not write this question.
Good question. So I'm endorsed by the teachers union. I've stood on the picket lines with our teachers during the last teacher strike, and was incredibly worried that we were headed towards a strike recently here. Thankfully, that was avoided. I thought we were headed for a strike because the word that was getting around was that the initial offer was a 1% raise, which is ridiculous. If you're following the economy, that would be actually losing money every year. So let's start with first some kind of COLA, so matching the rate of inflation, and then if I'm picking a number, I mean it should be 3 to 5% a year. So if the question is in the absence of the budget and all of that, we should be matching the COLA and then giving our teachers an additional raise on top of that. Obviously it's tough, but we need to do everything we can to keep paying our teachers, and that's our teachers and our OPSI employees are our most valuable resources. They're taking care of my kids every single day. I want to make sure they're paid and we have the best people here.
Thank you. That's a great question. As a individual that works for government, I love my percentage rates, right, increases. And so I would say a 12% rate increase over the span of 3 years, which equals 4%. And that's not a lot, but it's not a little. And it will allow individuals to live their life as well as take care of their families. Because essentially you love our children as teachers, but you have to take care of your lifestyle. And so to ensure that you do that, we need to ensure that you are paid and awarded for the work that you do for our families, for our children, for the future. Because when you think about it, this isn't just my child receiving an education. This is a part of this individual grows up and becomes a part of our community and gives back to our community. So we need to think about the work that our teachers are doing and reward them as such. So I would say 12% over the span of 3 years.
Sorry. Thank you for the question. So I want to start by saying my mother is an immigrant from Morocco, and in Morocco, we value teachers just as much as we value doctors and lawyers and engineers who are traditionally paid very highly. So in my ideal world, we are treating them the same as we are treating those other professions. Because those people don't exist without the teachers that shaped their entire education and their entire lives. So to me, a teacher is the most valuable profession there is. And I don't just say that because I'm running for school board. I say that because they helped raise me in the Columbus City School District. I was one of their educators, and I was making $40,000 a year doing my job dealing with middle schoolers. And for our teachers in the room, you know that's a challenge, and they don't deserve that at all whatsoever. And they do amazing work. And so in an ideal world where public schools are adequately funded and we recognize the value of an urban public school district, it should be beyond 5% that we're talking about. And also we need to have a relationship of partnership and collaboration with our labor unions rather than animosity. We shouldn't be coming to the table with fear and animosity. We should be coming in there as champions for them. And make sure that our people are taken care of first. I have more to say, but it's time's out, so I'll stop. Thank you.
Look, understanding our budget tells a lot where we invest. At the end of the day, not only from our teachers, but we have a lot of classified staff who are not getting paid the compensation, not just from bus drivers, but our librarians to special needs. And so when I look at it from a holistic standpoint, one thing that I want to bring as a board member is changing the value proposition of how we look at CCS. So because I mentioned I lived on the south side, I am a neighbor to Hamilton Township, Groveport, and Bexley. And when people move to those townships or city, they move for the school. That is the driving force. And all the services, all of the money is poured and wrapped around in that space. I would like CCS to have that same value proposition, because then when it comes to how tax abatements are rolled out, to how compensation is delivered, then we're making sure that everybody is getting paid at the rate that is best supporting the services that they're giving, so that when it comes to a better ecosystem, everybody is pouring in and we're seeing this reinvestment wheel at the end of the day. We have to have self-sufficient adults. So no, can you be self-sufficient if you can't pay your rent and you have no food to eat? No, you cannot. Can you also teach? And we don't want children coming in under the same conditions. But making sure that if our value proposition is best reflective, at the end of the day, that itself will drive and making sure that we have the fiscal budget to support. Thank you.
I want to say that I support teacher unions. I appreciate the raise. I was married to a teacher, and if you can believe it, for a while, he made more money than I did as a university professor. Because Ohio State did merit pay. There was no union. So if the state had a downturn, we did not get a raise. So when I think about valuing teachers and valuing them through a raise, I think it will be important as we look at that $50 million budget that we plan for the raise that we will be giving teachers rather than thinking of it as an afterthought. And if you do that when you're doing a $50 million deficit and trying to get rid of it, you're going to cushion it so that when you come to the bargaining table, it won't be unrealistic to offer 3% or 3.5% cost of living wage to teachers. So I think the board will need to be strategic in terms of looking at this budget, anticipating that there is going to be a raise for teachers so that when they come to the bargaining table, it won't be so difficult. And that would be my suggestion, giving a COLA raise, making sure a cost of living raise to the extent that we could.
Okay, for the next question, we'll start with Ms. Keys. So the next question reads, what is your take on the current anti-DEI push? And what do you propose to counter it? Coming from a parent of a CCS alum.
So there's nothing we can do in regards to the change in utilizing the words DEI. There's nothing we can do with that. But we've been practicing it. And so we need to continue to practice it. This doesn't, just because we're not utilizing DEI doesn't mean we're not going to have fair treatment. As a leader in my organization, we make sure that we are reaching all of our staff, despite the color of your skin. We're making sure that all individuals have the opportunity to sit at the table. And so as a brown woman sitting in front of you, DEI will not go away. It will continue to be practiced. It's just not going to be practiced in the words of DEI. We need to make sure that we are still receiving different people's cultures, acknowledging that. I was able to go to the New American Book Fair this weekend and purchase several books by an author who's from Somali. These books need to be in our libraries so that children are able, different types of, people that are coming from different areas are able to look at these books, read these books, and understand culture is diverse and it's important.
Thank you. I appreciate this question. So, as we know, we need to ask these people, what does DEI even mean to you? What does that term mean? And why exactly are you coming after it? We're a majority-minority district, and we know that our Black students are achieving at a level that's not in accordance with the rest of their peers, including English language learners. And we need to reinvest in their education and their circumstances to make sure that we have an equitable district, equitably funded district, equitably resourced district, and that's how we can do DEI, right? I also taught in CCS classrooms as a guest educator with a lot of immigrant and refugee students who are the harness and the baseline of our growth in our enrollment in the district is from immigration. And there are kids that are sitting in the back of class using transcription software that might or might not be accurate to translation of the language that they speak. And so they deserve the resources as well to have a good experience learning in the class and to feel supported and to be seen. We need to hire a more diverse array of educators and leaders in our district so that the students are taught and led by people who look and speak and think and pray like them. And so we can do a better job here regardless of what illegal DEI or DEI even means to these people, which is, by the way, just a racist dog whistle. So.
In one of my past careers, I had the opportunity to be in the DE&I administrator, working to scale and expand statewide internships throughout the state of Ohio. So I partner with traditional colleges, community colleges, and HBCUs. And every partner that I worked with, it wasn't the focus on DEI, but understanding that you may have a diverse candidate, which means that's somebody who is different. That's more of a practice, not a policy. Understanding that when they came into the door as a young professional, I changed the name from they're an employee to an intern, because we know that there's power in words. And so at the end of the day, it made people respect people out the gate. I am very much firm that sometimes what I had learned, to Mr. Lynch's point, when people hear words, how do they digest them and what does that mean? And oftentimes what I had learned in my experience, that I managed over 100 students entering into the workforce, that a lot of people didn't know what DE&I meant, and they thought it was more segregation and more isolation. At the end of the day, when we had strategic pathways that made sure everybody could come in, thrive, learn, and grow, and this wasn't just necessarily from a social standpoint or just from a background, this was also looking at from generations of students working from Gen Z to baby boomers. At the end of the day, we saw success. And I say all that to say, when it comes to CCS, we need to make sure that our parents, advocates, and community leaders are championing that.
So as Mr. Lynch said, we're a majority minority district. I taught diversity for many, many years. I taught many Columbus City School teachers and personnel in the diversity class. And we already are living DEI every single day. And what does that mean? That means it's about teachers understanding their population. It's about teachers, if you're on the east side, understanding east side kids. If you're on the west side, you understand the west side kids. You understand the things that they need and you bring it into the classroom. It's about having classrooms and schools that have a positive culture and climate. It's about making sure schools make all kids feel like they belong. It's what you do. And so we don't need the initials DEI. We should already be doing DEI just because of the kids that we're serving. And so it's really about the adults making that effort to understand their kids, know their kids, where are they coming from, and how best can I teach them. I agree with Ms. Keys. We should have our books that are reflective of the culture that these kids come from. We should not be afraid to put things on our walls that are reflective of the culture they come from. That's just doing what we should do because of the kids that we have. So in a majority minority district, my sense is that we should be doing this every single day just by making sure that the kids in our building feel like they belong and are wanted and loved.
I view our district's diversity as one of its greatest strengths, if not its greatest strength. It is the reason we send our kids to CCS. We love their school, and my son's second grade class has 10 different languages spoken in it, and it's a beautiful situation. It also, creates challenges, and so we need to, make sure our teachers have the tools needed. I think most importantly, we need to teach to fight back against the anti-DEI environment at the federal and state level. We must ensure that we are continuing to teach a culturally competent and accurate curriculum, and keep focusing on that. We must keep teaching our kids history, and no matter how much the federal government is trying to whitewash that, we have to keep teaching that in our schools. I support educational equity for every kid. We need to make sure that the schools have all the resources. We can do things like providing translators for schools. Sorry, I'm out of time.
Very cool. Oh, cool. Just I'll start. All right. Next question from a CCS staff member. Every year, CCS trends more toward control of instruction, meaning they are told to use curriculum as a mandatory word-for-word script rather than a resource. What do you think about teacher freedom versus fidelity. And we'll start with Mr. Lynch.
Thank you. I'm honored to share the stage with someone who was a teacher of mine at Columbus Alternative High School, who I do not believe really taught to fidelity at all, Mr. Dr. Jones. We had Socratic seminars in our school. We had creative multimedia learning projects in our school, and we really thrived and succeeded in that. I think a lot of people view government, public education as teach to the test and make sure that we drive up our student outcomes, whatever that means to different groups of people. But I know that our teachers are already doing the work every day to have creative solutions. They do know their kids. They do know the people that they spend the day with educating and teaching, and they do know their full potential. And they're smart enough, and I've seen it, and I know that they do it, that they tailor their education style and their learning to their folks. And they're all very strong and qualified individuals. And I support that work, and I know it already does happen. If there is a case in which we don't think a teacher has, the energy, we need to ask them the question of what's going on. How can we best support you? Or is it due to the circumstances at home? Is it the challenges of being overworked and overborne with responsibilities of kids' social, physical, and emotional well-being, which we put teachers in that position as well in CCS. So absolutely, just had to shout out Dr. Jones for that too.
So at my time as a PTO president, our school was definitely meeting ones and twos as far as performance. And we had a principal that was very much data driven, but he was more big picture. So we need to meet these measurements, but how are you going to best show up in the classroom to get the students excited? What we did is we kind of championed a new opportunity that included the parents, the teachers, and other support staff to making sure that wherever we needed to be excited, whether that was reading buddies, whether if that was mascot days, whatever it might have took to make sure that the child in the classroom could grow. But it also still correlated, I should say, in a curriculum that also made sure that it supported this teacher's best skill set, and it also encouraged the students. I say that to say that some of our teachers, right, you may be very introverted. So I don't want you to come out the box trying to do something that's not going to speak to your best skill set, and vice versa. If you're an extroverted teacher, right, just teaching to a book may not be the best skill set as well too. We have to make sure that we're providing a space that allows everybody to show up to bring their best skill sets, making sure our curriculum is on par, and then finding ways to find measurable outcomes so that we can see that. And I say that to say, we saw that success that's going on there, and it still continues under the new principal as well too, because we changed the culture and environment as well too. Thank you.
I think we have to acknowledge that teachers are professionals, that they went to school for 4 years and got that degree, and that they're capable of doing great things. I think we also have to dispel the fallacy that children in urban schools have to have a very controlled curriculum so that they can do well on the tests. And I think that is somewhat pervasive, which kind of leads to this control of instruction. But when you do that, it also stifles the critical thinking skills of kids. And so, as Mr. Lynch shared, in his school, he was able to utilize those critical thinking skills because those teachers were willing to go beyond the curriculum. And so we have to encourage teachers to think about the critical thinking skills they want kids to have. And if you, there is a curriculum that has to be done. The curriculum comes down from the state, so we have to understand that too. We just can't go pick a curriculum. We do have a curriculum, but we should give teachers the leeway to be able to implement, enhance, supplement, especially for many of our kids, to make them excited about school. So that's what I would advocate, that we encourage teachers to be able to use their professional judgment to do the kind of things they want to do in the classroom to help kids be excited about learning.
Agree with all that's been said. With 3 kids in the district, we're starting to get to the point where we're on our second and in one case third time around with the same teachers. And what I've noticed is that every year they're coming up with new and creative ways to teach the kids to meet the moment that we're in, and I love it. So I keep going over on my time, so I'll just say, let's hire the best teachers, let's create a great pipeline, hire the best teachers, and then let the teachers teach.
So I believe creative teaching is vital to our students' success. What good is a script if it's not tailored to meet the needs of our children? That's ridiculous, and we are hiring the best teachers. So if we're hiring the best teachers, we want them to bring their best selves to the table, and what other than being unique is that? So I believe that the curriculum should be utilized. It's a required curriculum, but I also believe that the teacher should be able to utilize it as a resource. And then measure the results. Measure the results of what that creative teacher is implementing. You never know what you're gonna find out from that experience. That teacher may be onto something. It may be something that needs to be duplicated elsewhere. So ensuring that our teachers are not scripted, but are you actually using the curriculum as resources and actually being able to be their unique selves in the classroom with students that they have learned and understand, it's a win-win to me.
Okay, for the next question, we'll start with Ms. Mason. And the question reads, in areas where families suffer more from poverty and parents feel overworked, how can you drive more parent engagement to allow better community between student, parents, and the school?
Great question. So my time as PTO president, I did an initial survey. That was just an observation to our school to kind of look at our families, where they were coming from. Now, it's a lottery school in CCS, so that means that you're going to pull from all walks of life. I say all that to say what I had observed initially is that our families weren't as engaged. And so rather than maybe pointing a finger as to why not, I did an investigation to see what could we do. I made sure I made copies, sent home stuff to parents, caught them at the drop-off and pickup line. And what I had found is that half of our parents had worked third shift, regardless if they were working at Amazon to if they were a nurse. And so that let me know when it came to parent engagement that they didn't have the opportunity or access to being included. So I made sure that I had PTO meetings or other informational meetings first thing in the morning when they got off, because there was a great chance that they were going to be able to stay. And all of the roles that I've been in social service. That means you have to meet people where they are. And half of meeting people where they are isn't just about making the space, but it's also recognizing individuals for what they have going on in their life. I say that to say, from a personal standpoint, our school seen me go from a 2-parent household to a widow household. So knowing that when you have your own grief and recognizing that in other individuals itself creates a level set for people to feel safe, inclusive, and also welcome into the environment. Thank you.
I think we have to rethink what parent engagement means. And there has always been kind of a definition that if you have a PTA, 50 parents show up, and that oftentimes is not going to happen. We also have to realize that some of these parents have not had success as a student in schools. So school is a negative place for them. And so I think we have to meet parents where they are and think in a different way. And it may be that, I worked in New York City Public Schools for 3 years as a school psychologist, the most impoverished district there. And one of the things we realized that when you ask a parent to come in at 9 o'clock and they're getting paid hourly, they are losing 3 hours of pay. And so it really helped me think differently about how we engage parents. Today we have phones, we can do Zoom. There are different ways we can engage parents. I think we also need to be out in the community so that they don't have to come to the schools. Can we have them at rec centers? Can we have different things hold them in different places? So I think when we think parent engagement, we have to think differently about what that terms mean for our parents. And it means we need to meet our parents where they are. And so it may mean we have to go an extra mile. I think we have family, I think ambassadors that can be very beneficial for us in terms of reaching parents. So that for me is what I've always thought, is that we have to change what we think parent engagement means.
Yeah, I think this is a great question, and I've thought about it a lot, not from the school board race, but from our own PTA. When the year before we got there, there was one T and no Ps, and so it was a pretty weak PTA. But you need, I think it starts with a champion who is willing to kind of put themselves out there. And really, it's a person by person basis. You're talking to your kids, friends, parents, and getting them to participate and coming to events and helping raise money and all of that. The more parents you have involved with the PTA, the more that you're gonna see. They're gonna get their families involved. They're gonna get their friends involved. So. I think it's a momentum thing. I think the community schools model is just a huge part of that too, and has the opportunity, like Munir said, we're supposed to have 3 by 2028. That seems like a very weak goal. Would love to continue to push that harder, and. It is just getting them more involved and working on the momentum there.
So I agree with Dr. Miranda. Meeting parents where they are is vital. As a parent who works 2 jobs and parent-teacher conference is coming up, what best way can we get that parent involved in parent-teacher conference? Is it by Zoom? Is it a phone call? Is it when they're coming off from work and maybe that teacher has study hall? What is the best way for that parent to be involved in their child's curriculum? Also holding board meetings around the city school district, the various schools, allows more involvement. It allows parents that are living in that community to actually be a part of the board meeting, and that is vital. As well as when you hold a meeting, offer a snack. Because if a parent is bringing a child, give them a snack, please. And I might want one too. But make sure that you're providing that because it's vital. It allows that child to have something to do. And again, making sure that there are activities for children. You don't just expect for them to come in and sit and not be disruptive if you're not giving them something to do. So ensuring that we are meeting parents where they are at is vital to ensuring that they are engaged. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I echo everything that Ms. Keys just said. I also think that one of the driving factors behind this is that traditionally we have been led by a board that doesn't behave in the first place as if they care to engage with parents. And so when we lead this way, when we lead a district this way, people don't feel as though they have a voice and they don't feel as though it's worth their time to be too engaged in their child's education. And then when you add those socioeconomic drivers into that, it gets all the more difficult, and then it's just a wash at that point, right? So first of all, the first thing I said in this forum was that we need to work hard to improve the everyday living conditions of people in the city of Columbus. And people don't think about a school board when they think about that, but we are elected officials, and we are people that should have a stronger relationship with people that do have a more direct impact on things like costs of housing and food and everyday expenses for our families. So that's one thing. Another thing is, again, the behavior of the board. Like Ms. Keys said, expanding those board meetings to go back to when we had board meetings in different schools across the community. People could see this beautiful building, meet people from different neighborhoods. I would love to bring that back. And then again, I would also like to expand the amount of time for public comment in the board meetings. 10 minutes is not enough. I could talk for 10 minutes myself. And so we need to expand that time and just show the community in our everyday operations that we care.
All right, our next question comes from a CCS family member. They say, My son attends Columbus City Preparatory School for Boys. How would you address continued funding for specialized academic programming? We'll start with Dr. Miranda.
So you're talking about lottery schools?
Yes, like
Okay.
schools like CCPS.
Yes. Yes, I do like the lottery school system. My daughter went to Spanish Immersion Academy. She sounds like a native speaker, so it was very beneficial, enjoyed it. In fact, she went through the whole lottery system. She went to Columbus Spanish Immersion, she went to Monroe. It's sad that it's no longer there, and she went to Eastmore Academy. So I think the lottery system is very beneficial. What I do think we need to do is look at our lottery schools to make sure that they're staying true to what they were initially identified for. One of the things we used to have is that the lottery schools we know oftentimes scored the highest. And so that is not always the case today. But I think for many kids that want specialized things like an all-boy, like a Spanish immersion, like a French immersion, they can be really beneficial. They're an opportunity for parents to have options for their children, especially because we know all of our children are different, so it may work for one child but not another. And so my hope is that we continue to have them. I know this is a discussion that's going to be on the board's agenda, but I would hope that we would continue with the lottery schools because it does give parents options for specialized instruction that they may want their kids to go through.
I think it goes back to, you know, the larger problem with the budget, and really goes back to, you know, the major points there. We need a 15-year plan, facilities plan to create stability, and, you know, really more than anything, we need to turn this tide of students leaving the district into students coming back to the district. So my entire reason for, you know, being here is to kind of push back against the charter schools and try to get more kids back into public school. So I want to continue that, and I think that's our pathway out of this.
So specialized academic programs work, and so we need to ensure that the funding allows us to continue these opportunities. Two of my children were lottered into a school, and I actually transported my children to that school for almost a full year because it was just that important for them. So when you talk about the cost of keeping these opportunities in play for our children, it's a requirement because you know full well what your child wants, they know what they want, and ensuring that it is a priority in your book as well as the board's book is a necessity. And so when it comes down to actually having these conversations, we need more parents involved in the decision-making arena. If we do not have your opinions as a board, who are we serving? You know, it's all about our children and their needs. So ensuring that we have parent feedback during these events where we are making a decision is vital to our children being successful in our school district.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge the fact that I was a lottery school kid, so I grew up when my triplets and I outgrew our little house on the Old North area. We moved out to Berwick, and we did not go to our neighborhood schools, and then we went to Cause for high school. So I benefited from that system, but I also want to acknowledge the difficult history of that as taking people out of their neighborhoods. It's upholding the segregation that we still exist in today. And so I want to protect those programs that are specialized and meet people's special needs. But I also want to make sure that every neighborhood does have a good school. So if somebody doesn't know what specialized education that they want when they are a teenager that's still making decisions about who they are and what they want to learn, they have a school in their neighborhood that has the ability to meet their needs and also performs well academically. If you are a kid that wants a rigorous, well-performing education, Cause is a great choice. I went there, but you shouldn't have to go to Cause. There's limited seats at Cause, and you shouldn't have to go there to get get the best quality education. So I want to see that equity. I do support the existence of those programs in those specific situations. I think it's a way that we can compete with charter schools, but I also want to make sure that we're not upholding the system that you can only go to these schools to get a fair chance. And that's what I'm all about in the word equity for education. So thank you for that question.
In short, when you look at Columbus Preparatory for Boys, they're rich in community investment. So when we think about partnerships and advancement and the community that surrounds that, one thing in particular, you have great partners who came out for the tying service. So essentially looking at the family members that come, the partners, the businesses, the relationships, those are what I mean when I talk about community first, because then how do we talk with them to say, hey, we need to have a different level of investment when it comes to this school, not just necessarily for the school that we have here in our future leaders, right? For our neighboring schools. So some of them work for our developers. Some of them work for our financial institutions. Some of them work for our higher education partners. And that's what I mean when it comes to partnerships, advancement, and conversations. Because at the end of the day, if we're not tapping into those individuals outside of just coming in to tie a tie, then at the end of the day, we're doing a devalue and a disservice to making sure that we have equity across the board. I say all that to say, it's not just looking at just to that point of our feeder pathways. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not going to a lottery school or you're not in a neighborhood school that has had prominent success, at the end of the day, parents are looking for resources and opportunities, and we have to make sure that as the board, we are reflective and creating opportunities for students to have that in their backyard. Thank you.
We will now transition to closing statements. As a reminder, each candidate gets 1 minute to make a statement. We'll start with Dr. Miranda, then go to Ms. Mason and on board.
Let me make sure we don't talk long. 1 minute. Oh, don't start my minute yet. Okay. So just thank you for having us here. It's always a pleasure to be with these folks up here. We've been on many things together, but I just want to end that I do think I bring experience. I think I bring knowledge of urban schools, a lot of knowledge of Columbus City schools. My 3 things that I am running on are foster parent and community engagement, which I think is so critical, promote a culture of excellence and accountability, and then finally utilize data-driven criteria to make decisions. I think everything we should do, we should always look at the data. If the data is working for our kids and they're being successful, we should invest in that. If there are things that we're doing that is not making a difference, we should divest. So we should always look at where is our money getting, where are we getting the biggest bang for our buck. I hope that you will vote for me. I am here, I am passionate, and this is my opportunity to get back to Columbus City Schools in a different way than I have for the past 37 years.
Yeah, real quick, thank you for joining tonight's conversation. One thing I always like to do is a call to action, because conversations like this shouldn't end and begin just right here during a candidate forum, right? This is a year-long process, year over year over year. And we continue to keep having the same conversations because we're not rallying in the spirit that we need to make sure that we're moving the needle forward. So I want to make sure that when you go home, you tell your friends and family that they make sure, because we still have a host of other candidate forums coming up. So it's important from a voter education standpoint to make sure that each one teach one. I say that to say I'm excited to be back here to run again. In 2019, you called for bold leadership, and I'm back here trying to make sure that we can continue the good fight. I'm definitely here to make sure that my priorities, such as reforming tax abatements, strengthening our community partnerships, and building pathways, is different. And I like to say I'm a parent advocate and community leader. So come join the pack and help us move this needle forward so that CCS can be the future that we wanted to see. Thank you, Kimberly Mason.
Thank you very much. My name is Munir Lynch. I appreciate you all being here today. Thank you again to Northland High School for opening up your beautiful building to us and to the sponsoring organizations. Look, we have a choice between 2 futures. We have a choice between continuing with the work that has always been done that has left us behind, left our kids behind, and left us in a position where we are fighting for the scraps. And we have a future where we have bold, brave leadership that's willing to move everything from the ground up because something hasn't been working, right? And I am that candidate that's willing to acknowledge that we are failing our kids and our staff and our families, and we need to provide the best place to work and to learn as our city continues to grow. So we have a very uphill battle. I encourage you to join our campaign, knock some doors with me every Saturday and Sunday. Check out our social media. I'll hang out afterwards for a little bit to answer any questions, and come say hi. So thank you.
So thank you so much for your attendance. Thank you to the organizers, Northland High School. I am passionate about our students receiving quality education which prepares them for the future. That is most important. And we need a board that's also cued into the fact that we need to be building leaders for real that are actually out building our community. We need a board that understands it's important for everybody to be at the table when decisions are being made, and for a board to be transparent and understanding. As a candidate for Columbus City Schools, I'm passionate about our children's futures. I ask for your vote on or before November 4th. Remember, keys for Columbus City Schools, keys unlocking opportunities, and you all have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for being here. Thank you also to the organizers and the moderators and timekeepers. I think this was definitely the tightest forum we've done so far. So very nice work, sir. Like I said, I'm here because I believe in our public school system. I have 3 young kids in the district. I will be in the district for the next 14 years. I think it's important to have board members with skin in the game, and we really haven't had enough of that in the past. My career has been spent working on progressive causes in the State House, the Strickland administration, the Obama campaign, and now I manage master planning of public facilities like city halls, libraries, rec centers. Those bring communities and stakeholders together to create transformative projects, and that's what I want to do on the board. So policy-wise, we need a 15-year master plan to develop with all the stakeholders involved, universal pre-K, and supporting the community schools model. Thank you guys again very much for being here.
All right. We'd like to close tonight by thanking all of the candidates for their participation and all of the audience members for all of your questions. Way more than we had a chance to get to, but thank you all for participating in our democratic process.
And we all urge you to make a voting plan now.
Early voting starts October 7th. Write that down. And election day is November 4th. Please check the League of Women Voters voter guide at vote411.org. That's vote411.org for a full list of candidates running in this year's general election. Thank you all and have a good night.
Thank you.
It's long evening, huh? I am too. Yeah. What'd you think of it?
It's great. I like
Yeah. Take some of them a while to wind up so we can get help. Yeah.
Mr. Montero.
Oh, hey, thanks, man.
That's where I went.
You did great up there, by the way. Sounded great.
Thank you.
And I know
I'm
it wasn't.
stuttering just a little bit.
Oh, you were fine, man. Have a nice evening.
You too.
I mean, I'll see you.
Yep, see you around. We'll, I'll try to talk to people about what we meant on the email, and yeah, I'll let you know. All right, see ya.
Yes.
Hey.
Greatly appreciate it, man.
Oh, appreciate you too. Thanks for coming.
Try not to fidget with it too much.
Oh, you did great. No issues at all. Yeah, perfect. All right, I'll see you at the next PD.
Yes, sir. Yeah, if you guys need anything, man, obviously let me know.
Appreciate you.
You guys are doing, you guys slamming this year?
Hoping to. Yeah.
Slam camp or retreat. We got a date for that. It's like January 29th.
Oh, is that right? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
So if you get your team together, you want to come out with some writing activities and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Doing it a little earlier, hopefully no blizzard. But it cost you guys nothing. We got busing secured.
Yeah, we did that one year and the kids really loved it. So yeah, have a good one.
Yeah, anything you need, just let me know, man.
Cool, much appreciated.
No
You have
problem.
a good one.
You too.
Okay, so I will double check it. Well, you see, what fair enough, not wrong with that. So my son is learning.
So much.
A lot of the questions we couldn't get to.
I know. It's exciting. You have friends up there? I do.
If you want to recycle this paper, they want to just leave it. That's yeah, a lot of them. Have a good evening. Good luck, Doc.
Yes, I've seen you. I've seen you before. I don't know.
Oh, this is the first one, but I think
Oh, that was it. That was it.
Yeah, I go back to my high school reunion. Just have high school reunion. Right? Oh, he's doing great. He did it for 3 months.
Yeah.